Is the Hive ready to swarm in Charlotte this season? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Thanks for tuning into another one. It's your boy Wraith Hoops. Make sure to like this video, comment your thoughts down below, subscribe, and turn on those post notifications. With that being said, let's get right into the good stuff. Now, the Charlotte Hornets have been an interesting conundrum over the past some odd years, simply because MJ has been the head of the crown, and considering that he was a proven winner as a player, you would love to see him be a proven winner as an owner. That hasn't been the case, and the best things that we have to show for it were the Kemba Walker and Al Jefferson era, and now the LaMelo Ball era. We're hoping that LaMelo can take that next step. He has gotten consistently better over the course of his first 3 seasons in the league, but we finally have seen the greatest culmination of talent I think we've ever seen on a Hornets roster since Kemba Walker and Al Jefferson made the playoffs and had to play against the Miami Heat. With that being said, I can't say that without breaking down exactly what the depth chart is. So, to start out, LaMelo Ball is obviously running the point guard. Terry Rozier is going to be running the 2. Brandon Miller, who they just drafted at 2 instead of Scoot Henderson, will run at the small forward over the aging Gordon Hayward, who's preparing to probably enter the twilight years of his career in the upcoming few seasons. PJ Washington and Miles Bridges will split minutes at the 4, and Mark Williams, Nick Richards, and Kai Jones will switch things out at the center spot. Now you can add to the mix the Nick Smith Jr.'s, the Cody Martins, the Theo Maledons, and the Frank Tilikinas. But the expectation is that there's going to be a solid 8 to 9 guys that consistently play on a night in, night out basis until come closer to the playoff time, you see a more tightened rotation and less of a spread on minutes. Now, the Hornets did end up finishing 5th in the Southeast Division. I believe that their ceiling could be 3rd. They could surprise me a little bit more, but I'm not prepared to take a step but so high. I would like to say that if all things go well and the dice roll in their favor, then you could see them as a 6th, maybe 5th seed in the East this season. Now, obviously, the East is very deep. So honestly, one of the deepest from a team for team than we've seen in some time. But I do believe that it is something that is within their grasp. An interesting thing for us to see will be whether Terry Rozier stays with the team or if he does end up getting traded, because during the second half of that season last year, the expectation was that they were going to end up unloading him in an attempt to get better. But that didn't happen. Regardless of that, he didn't have necessarily his best shooting season from the field, but he did average a career high in points at 21.1. He ended up doing that on 41.5, 32.7, and 80.9% splits, which aren't horrible, but you would like to see more from somebody that's consistently taking a lot of shots, and he did end up taking 19 a game. The most important things to note about this roster right here is the simple fact that LaMelo Ball is coming back from injury, for one. He only played 30 some odd games last season. I expect his shot selection to improve and his awareness on defense to improve. If those 2 things happen, he's already a great distributor of the basketball. He's already a great shooter. I think he could take that step to the next level since he does love shooting threes, and he did average 10 per game last season. But I think that he can take that next step as a leader and as somebody that just gives effort when he's on the floor, even if he's not directly involved in a play. Terry Rozier is going to be Terry Rozier. He's going to shoot the ball. He's going to try his hardest on defense. He's not going to be the most defensively sound or offensively sound, but he's somebody that you can rely on to be consistent in the type of player that he is when he's on the court. Brandon Miller is going to be a wild card because, honestly, a lot of people were split over the decision. Many people didn't know whether it was a thing of MJ giving one last FU to the organization before he left his way out, since he did end up having the last say on whichever pick they wanted to go with, because even executives were split on Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller. Now, obviously, MJ ended up saying Brandon Miller was the guy we want to go with. In my eyes and in all other analysts' eyes, he is the less NBA ready out of the pair. Scoot Henderson did end up playing in the G League with G League Ignite. He played Victor Wembanyama. He played some NBA caliber talent. He played against the Thompson twins. He was a guy that was a very capable player, and he played the closest version to NBA basketball that there is in the world. Now, to credit Brandon Miller, he did play at Alabama in a decent college conference, and he was a solid shooter in that time that he was there. The issue was he doesn't have a lot of meat on his bones. He doesn't really have great body control going to the rim. And as a matter of fact, he really went to the rim at one of the lowest rates that we've ever seen from a player at his size, particularly at the college level. And he seemed to be hell-bent on shooting threes. Now, if his stroke ends up working in the league, then that makes things even better because that means you give LaMelo more opportunities to have a pick and pop situation, to have more opportunities to have room to work with going downhill and having a kick out option as well. Another interesting part is going to be how PJ Washington and Miles Bridges end up playing out, because we know who PJ Washington is. He had the opportunity to take a step up as a player this past season with Miles Bridges being out. But one can also not forget the fact that Miles Bridges was a 27-4 guy on 49% shooting from the field in the 2021-2022 season when he last played. Last year, he was out the entire time, obviously with the whole pending domestic violence case, and the league decided that they were going to suspend him for a certain portion of games, but they gave him credit because he did not play at all last season. So he will have a short suspension to play out at the beginning of this year. But come the time where he is live, rolling, and ready to go, the expectation is that he plays really similar to how he did before he left, in a back like I never left kind of situation. He also will obviously be with the team during the training camp and all the practices, so they will have time to become well acquainted. So it should be a well needed boost after they kind of test out the pieces in the machine to make sure everybody's well oiled. By the time he comes back, he can kind of slip in where he fits in and kind of carve a role out for himself after that. Gordon Hayward, we just hope, is the most efficient player that he can be at his age as he slowly fades out of the expectations and the expected future of the Hornets. I don't know if they'll end up trading him or if they'll find another opportunity for him, but it remains to be seen. Mark Williams is obviously going to be the starting center, but you also have Nick Richards and Kai Jones filling out that spot later on down the road. Cody Martin and Theo Maledon, Nick Smith Jr., and Frank Ntilikina are obviously going to be productive role players from the guard position standpoint, but we hope that we don't have to get so deep in our rotation that it takes away minutes from people that need the burn and need to be in live game situations to perfect their game and to get more well acquainted with each other while they're on the court against the top of the line players that they can end up playing against. Like I said, MJ now is out the door as the team owner. We're expecting to see a different type of Hornets organization going into the future. And with this being the pilot season for the new Hornets brand, the expectation is that they take a step in a new direction. I personally believe that the Hornets are capable of being that next team, but it comes down to how much effort they put in on the defensive side of the ball, how efficient they are offensively, and what type of player LaMelo Ball wants to be. If he's ready to be a leader and he decides that he wants to be a winner and not just a guy that puts up good numbers, I see this team as a real threat in the playoffs. Not maybe to be a contender per se, but if the right matchup presents itself, it would not surprise me if they ended up winning. With that being said, tell me your thoughts about what the expectations for the Hornets should be going into this season. Do you expect them higher or lower than I do? Do you expect them to miss the playoffs? Do you think they need more time to just adjust to one another? Obviously, as somebody that grew up watching the Hornets, I cater more so to their good graces, even though they have a tendency to let me down. But comment, let me know your thoughts, like this video, subscribe if you like the Hornets or if you're into NBA content in general, smash that notification bell, join the Patreon if you're up to it. And as always, good morning, good evening, good night, no matter where you are on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.